I wouldn't say it was easy early on, because I'm talking almost 11 years back, and that time, a single girl in a city like Bombay, although it's been
Right.
very friendly, but it was a
Right.
tough time, because, you don't know where you're going to go with your work, and, you're just without any support. And I don't come with an architectural lineage. So for me, it was kind of tough initially. But I had some wonderful friends who gave me a break in terms of designing their houses. And, I still remember the first time that one of my friends paid me a mere sum of 20,000 rupees for designing his house. And I was like, yay, it's like, I finally, started my practice, and,
Only,
this is
huh.
official. So it was great.
Right.
Of course, then, about 4 years later, then my partner and now my husband Piyush joined in, and things become easier, with time. So that was about it. And in terms of design, really, when we started, we were doing a lot of minimalist work. I think it was initially more driven by the budgets that we were working on, which were quite limited. So just getting the design in place and getting the furniture was enough for the clients. We never spoke about accessorizing it, or putting art on the walls. Though somewhere, we would still download pictures from the internet and then frame it, so that the space looks complete. And
Right.
now
Right.
we've moved to a completely different kind of design. It's so much more detailed oriented. It's there is so much things that we try and do, whether it's accessorizing using different kind of materials, wallpapers, paneling. There's so much to do now.
Right.
So
Right.
over the years, our philosophy has changed really from being a minimalistic firm to being maximalist. Yeah.
Right, right, right. So Mumbai is known for its space crunch, and with space crunch comes this problem of making the space look luxurious and spacious, which is basically your USP. So how do you approach on achieving this?
Uh, So basically, when we talk about space, I think luxury, let's say, the first thing is putting a good plan in place. Having your, circulation areas, putting your furniture according to the size of the space that you have. That is, I think, one of the most important things that we pay attention to. We have obviously, we don't necessarily work on really large residential projects. Even in Bombay, we still do a lot of smaller houses. And what is
Right,
important is that the furniture is to the scale of what we are designing. So always, giving a piece of furniture to breathe, so it's not about how big, it's not necessary that all the pieces have to be small size, or all of them have to be against the walls. That's not important. What is important is that the pieces are blending well in the space.
right. They look like a
Also for
family
me,
together.
like a family together,
Yeah, yeah, right,
also, when it comes to elements, of course, mirrors are our best friend. They add luxury, they double up the space.
right,
Then for me, another important thing is using metals. Things like brass and copper, they kind of reflect the light of them, and the space becomes beautiful in its own way. Lighting plays another very important role, and I'm not talking only about architectural lighting, I'm also talking about decorative lighting. So things like wall sconce, it could just add the right amount of luxury that you need. Then accessorizing, I mean, I love accessorizing, and I feel no matter how big or small the space is, that's a must. So it's not about, you don't have to clutter your living room or your bedroom. It could be just one single piece which is hanging on the wall, saving the space on the floor, and you build your story around it. That is what is
right.
what kind of works. And of course, I can't forget a rug. Somehow I feel that, it just
That's
kind
the
of,
first thing.
yeah, it
Yeah,
kind
completes
of
the look.
ties up the whole space. It makes,
Right, right, right.
it makes your room look so much bigger. People feel like,
Hmm.
let's put a small rug, and I still die trying to convince my clients to put a rug, because I just feel it's so important. You know, the smaller the rug,
right,
the smaller your space will be. So it doesn't have to be a luxury piece. It, you know, it could be a kiln, it could be like a dari, but it just has to be there. So yeah, these are a
right.
couple of elements which I feel kind of add luxury to even a smaller space.
Right, right. So in every design brief comes with its own set of challenges and even perks. So how do you derive inspiration for each project and take that forward on towards the design stage?
So for me, and I speak with all honesty, for me, my inspiration is my client. And believe me, staying in Bombay, my entire family is in the north. I think over the years, I've realized that, you know, the person who's staying in the house is the most important element. So for me, that becomes the inspiration. And so as a, you know, as in how we design, we become so close to the family. Like really, some of my best friends are my ex-clients, you know, in Bombay, and they are really my family. And you know, you just kind of get to know them, and that's where you start deriving the inspiration from. How they work, how they live, what are the colors they like, what comes
Hmm.
to their comfort. All that is extremely important, and that's where I derive my inspiration from.
Right. In fact, a versatile color scheme is seen in all of your projects, whether we talk about the goosebumps or we talk about 50 Shades of Dark, from a subtle color palette to really dark and bold colors. How do you blend them with luxury and materials and textures and patterns? How do you do that?
So a lot has been spoken about colors, and I do love colors. And I always come and tell my clients, the first thing I say, please go and open your wardrobe. Okay, what do you see? We are Indians, we love colors. Look at our festive wardrobe. They are just full of pinks, reds, oranges, blues. Tell me a color which is not there. So I always tell them, please, first thing, see what you like to wear. Start from there. And for me, that is exactly how the whole process starts. So it's initially, it's very difficult to convince a lot of people, because they're like, no, I can't have like a green closet or a blue bar or something. I said, listen, you're wearing one, you know. And even so recently, we did a project wherein I asked the client, what is your favorite color? He's like, my favorite color is green. I said, okay, fine, let's do the whole closet. You know, we did like a library, and we did, it's about 15 feet by 10 feet, and it's completely in green. And he saw it, he's like, my God, what is this? I said, you will grow. It'll grow on you. Give it some time. You're just seeing green right now. But there'll be accessories that will come in, there'll be books
Right.
that will come in, there'll be personal things out of your life that will come in. So don't just discard color like this. You know, how many of us have just black and white clothes? You know, I may like a particular color. A lot of people say I like only white. Yes, but
Hmm.
you can't be wearing white all the time unless you're a neta.
Right.
So you have
Right.
to be wearing colors. So I think it's
Right.
so important, and just to educate them. And believe me, most of them, oh, now it's easier. Earlier it wasn't so easy. So if I go back to a couple of my earlier pictures, like how much browns I've used, why did I do that? But now I just can't be without colors, and a lot of my clients do know that they're coming to me for the color. So I have this mad green dress, and I always wear that for my first meeting, so they know who they are dealing with, you know. So it's kind of, you know, it just kind
Okay.
of sets the tone for them that okay, fine, you know, this is one colorful woman who's come here, and come on, you know, let's just go ahead in
Right.
that direction only. Yeah, so that's about it in terms of color.
All right. So talking about the Dubai project that you've done, how did you define luxury in terms of spatial design for that project, and how was your experience on working on that project?
Uh, so first, talking about luxury and spatial design, I think luxury and spatial design is all about starting from the inception. You know, it was a big bungalow that we did there, and I feel that any space, like the first thing that you do is, let's say I have a living room of 50 feet by 40 feet, but when I enter the house, I need a foyer. For me, that is where the luxury begins. You know, it's just not having a big space, it's just how well that space is designed. I could have a really big bedroom, but if I just put a bed in the center of this room, it is not going to work. You know, every corner of the room, whether it's having a seating in on one side of the room, or whether it's against the window, or putting the bed in the right space. That is what is important for me in terms of spatial design. For
Right.
Dubai, it was actually one of our clients in Bombay whose house we had done recently, and so Dubai is a lot about rentals. So this bungalow they had rented long term for about 20 years, and they were ready to do things in it. So for me, that was what was exciting, because we started off on a great note. For me, it was really one of those dream projects where my client is she's a spendthrift. So she's like, okay, I would say, okay, let's pick up this, and she's like, okay, let's pick up this. So it was really great doing up that whole house. I also feel that Dubai offers a lot of world class, brands which are out there. There's so much variety of, whether it's accessories, rugs, anything which is out there. So it gave me complete freedom to choose what I wanted to choose, which I feel is kind of restricted in India still, because we do have limited good design
Right.
companies, and we're
Right.
struggling a bit there. So always we keep on going, okay, let's go to Italy, or let's go to China, or let's go here and get the products from there. Although we
Right.
are
Right.
reaching there in terms of design as a community, but still it's a long way before we get to that point.
Right. Right. So when we talk about residential, luxurious or high-end projects, the kind of brief that you get from the client, how is that different from the kind of brief you get for a non-residential residential project? What is the core difference between the two?
I think a residential client always designs for, the brief may not be so different, because the only difference is probably that, let's say we talk about a
Automation
builder.
and everything.
No,
Right.
I'm just talking about the user, the end user. So in a
Right.
residential client, I'm one on one with the user of the house, while in a commercial project, the client is deciding for a whole bunch of other people. So comfort, of course, is the number one factor in both cases. But for an office, it could be people who are coming to the office. For a retail, it could be people who are coming in the shop to retail. I mean, to basically see the products. So the end user changes every time, and that is what makes the difference in terms of the brief which comes from the client.
Right. 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 So does automation play a role in this when we are talking about high-end residential projects?
Not going to work. Every corner of the room, whether it's having a seating in on one side of the room, or whether it's against the window, or putting the bed in the right space, that is what is important for me in terms of spatial design. For Dubai, it was actually one of our clients in Bombay whose house we had done recently, and so Dubai is a lot about rentals. So this bungalow they had rented long term for about 20 years, and they were ready to do things in it. So for me, that was what was exciting, because we started off on a great note. For me, it was really one of those dream projects where my client is she's a spendthrift. So she's like, okay, I would say, okay, let's pick up this, and she's like, okay, let's pick up this. So it was really great doing up that whole house. I also feel that Dubai offers a lot of world class, brands which are out there. There's so much variety of, whether it's accessories, rugs, anything which is out there. So it gave me complete freedom to choose what I wanted to choose, which I feel is kind of restricted in India still, because we do have limited good design
Right.
companies, and we're
Right.
struggling a bit there. So always we keep on going, okay, let's go to Italy, or let's go to China, or let's go here and get the products from there. Although we
Right.
are
Right.
reaching there in terms of design as a community, but still it's a long way before we get to that point.
Right. Right. So when we talk about residential, luxurious or high-end projects, the kind of brief that you get from the client, how is that different from the kind of brief you get for a non-residential residential project? What is the core difference between the two?
I think a residential client always designs for, the brief may not be so different because the only difference is probably that, let's say we talk about a
Automation
builder.
and everything.
No,
Right,
I'm just talking about the user, the end user. So in a
right,
residential client, I'm one on one with the user of the house. While in a commercial project, the client is deciding for a whole bunch of other people. So comfort, of course, is the number one factor in both cases. But for an office, it could be people who are coming to the office. For a retail, it could be people who are coming in the shop to retail. To basically see the products. So the end user changes every time, and that is what makes the difference in terms of the brief which comes from the client.
right, right. So, does automation play a role in this when we are talking about high-end residential projects?
Technology is the way of the future. It's not just about automation, but there are a whole lot of things which are out there today. Last at India Design ID, we saw virtual reality coming in, where you can walk
Right,
your
right.
clients
By
now
HP,
through,
yes.
yeah, through their new homes with a host of different things. That is exciting. Of course, we all know about voice recognition software. So whether it's Google Home or it's Alexa or whatever, you're sitting
Right,
in one place and just kind of controlling the whole home. And there is a software which is controlling whether what time you want to switch on your geysers, or you want some reminders for your daily tasks. So I think technology is going to be very integral to our design, even in the future. It has been in the past. I mean, we started off with just dimming of the lights, then it went on to air conditioners and other equipment, whether it is your curtains or so it just kind of get even and even more complex. As a designer, it's very important that I take care of the comfort that the client is looking at in terms of technology, and how aesthetically I am treating it as well. So I don't want to see 1,000 buyers around my AV equipment at the end of the day, or although the client may want that equipment. So it's
right,
combining both best of both the things together.
right. We're getting an interesting question from the audience. How do you choose bold color palette for your um, closet? When we're talking about closet, choosing such a bright color, how do you choose that?
So, like I said, I'm sorry. Is Are they talking about the closet or a space? Like I'm.
Or a space in general? I think it's generic or a space, yeah. Bold color.
Okay.
They're
So
talking
like
about bold colors.
okay. So like I said, I think my inspiration starts really from the client. I ask them, there could be one color which you like, and it's always the client which kind of pinpoints that that says that, okay, I need this in my room, or this is the color that I'm comfortable with. So that's where we start from. And yeah, I think that's what is the inspiration. So it's mostly about what colors the client is comfortable with. It could I mean, I do put in my inputs on what colors can work for your space, but it's mostly what the other person is comfortable with, because eventually they are living there. If I just say, okay, let's put
Right,
red, and they're not comfortable with red, it's not going to work for them.
right. What is your most favorite area to design or work in a residential project?
I think the living room is one of my favorites, because especially in cities like Bombay, that is where the entire family is coming together. So it has to be a multifunctional space where everybody can not just interact with each other, but also spend a larger time of the day. So for me, it has to be definitely the living room, where we are trying to kind of work
Right, right.
in the best possible manner. Yeah.
Right. Do you choose art piece first and then design rest of the space around it, or it's the other way around? Your take on artwork.
So this is This is a question which depends on the client. We did a project recently where the client in Jalandhar, where the client had an art collection to die for, and we designed the whole house around that art collection. So every piece had a proper space. You know, like he had these cutters. You know, the knives from Punjab, which you have these beautiful pieces, and we incorporated them in a center table. We made the center table to basically display these pieces. He had a lot of swords, so we did a whole wall full of swords. You know, we created a beautiful backdrop to display those pieces. So sometimes clients do not have any art, you know, so then you have to kind of
Right.
work with then you have to work afterwards. Of course it has to
Right.
be integral, so we know that, okay, you know, we are doing up a wall and we want the art here, so we do work, we do account for it, but the art definitely in that case comes a little later.
Right, right. When a client generally has his own piece of artwork, they're more or less they're more emotionally connected with it, so
They're
that
very
makes sense
emotionally connected
incorporating
with
that.
it. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
right. If they're
yes. So
not, if they don't have anything, they're not connected with it, then it comes afterwards.
yes, yeah. And sometimes it's
Right.
also about educating the client that how important art is in your home. So we've really we've done things wherein we've taken the pictures of the house, put up a Photoshop the actual art that we are proposing and shown it to them, and which has kind of led them to convince that yes, art will work in this space. And we
Right.
always ensure that we do tell the client that please keep a budget. You know, let's not spend everything on the furniture or on the furnishings. You know, we really need some budget to be kept for the art. So it's a
Right.
slow gradual process. A lot of people are not okay with it, but they do get there, you know. So
Right, right, absolutely. A very popular question that I've seen in all the live sessions. How do you deal with clients that push their ideas despite being a design disaster? The most popular one
I don't.
so
I'm
far.
I'm I'm known for being very stubborn. I don't listen to clients. I do try and convince them. If they don't, then I just I'm very blunt and say, fine, you want to do this, you do this, but it's not going to look nice, you know. So I'm actually very known to be not listening to clients at all and completely discarding their ideas if I feel they don't work. So in a lot of places, clients do come up with brilliant ideas, and I will have to give it to them that somehow they, you know, which it could be something that I may have missed, and from it, I'm quite thankful for them for bringing it to my attention. But there are a lot of cases when they bring up some weird idea, and then you have to tell them, no, this is not going to work. Let's
Right, right.
not do this, you know. I think it also comes with age, because I've been practicing for so many years now, so they know that what I'm talking, they've seen my work out there, so they know that if I'm saying something, it is not wrong, so they kind of are convinced with it.
Right. Most of the times, clients generally come with a set of things that, we want to make something like this, or they don't want to listen even if they're
I'm
consulting
sorry,
an expert
I
for it.
think I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, Utsa?
What are the three elements of design that define you and PSD?
Three elements of design. I think color, layers, and functionality. So
Color,
for
layers,
me,
and
it's about all these
functionality.
three things.
Right. Oh.
Yes.
Uh, what has been a turning point in your, one sec, the question missed out. What has been the turning point in your journey with interior and architecture? I think this is going to be a turning point in the interior and architecture industry. Now, after the pandemic situation, people are going to look at spatial design really differently. Even not just us, people who are the users, they are going to perceive the spaces really differently now after this situation.
Yes, because see, right now this kind of situation may arise again, you know. So people are definitely going to look at their homes as a more functional space rather than just being their sanctuary, you know, which it was
Right.
earlier that, okay, you know, people are definitely going to look at their homes, the corners that they did not utilize, and they would want to utilize those corners of the house also in the best possible manner. But for me personally, I think I think the starting of my own firm was one of the, biggest change in my life, because I don't think I've taken a single holiday in the past 11 years without work. So you kind of change everything when you decide to start up a new company. It's your baby and
Mm.
you have to take care of it. You have to kind of grow with it, face the challenges. uh, there are so many things that are there which are not even being put out in front of you, when you really start a company, and then you face them as they come. So it's quite a challenging journey, and it starts from the inception of your company. So when
Right.
you're working in,
Absolutely.
and I've worked for a very long time in another firm, so I know when, as an employee, I never realized it, what kind of stresses are there, and you keep on blaming the bosses that, okay, he's traveling. Like, I remember my boss used to travel a lot, and I used to be like, he always travels, what does he have to complain about? But really, when I started traveling, and I travel quite a bit, and I realized it's so tiring when you're going. I might be going to Italy with a client, but really, when you go with them, they want the best out of your time. So it's morning 8:30 to evening 11 o'clock that you're constantly with them, and it takes a lot of energy to do that, to have that kind of commitment. So it's not easy.
Right. Right. Another interesting question that even I wanted to ask you is which one has been your most challenging project so far?
I think my own house has been very challenging, because I couldn't decide what I wanted in my own house, and I'm really telling you. In fact, I was working with one of my team members. She used to think that I'm mad. Every day I would say, "Let's do this, let's do this." She's like, "Listen, you've got only that much balls and those many things in your house. Why are you constantly trying to change your mind?" So for me, pinpointing to things that, okay, I like this, was very, very difficult. I was very sure about the spatial planning, that I wanted this particular thing. I didn't want too much furniture. I've got small kids, so my the kids' bedroom doesn't have a bed. It has a Murphy bed. So those kind of things I was very sure of. But because I'm exposed to so many materials and so many beautiful things, so eventually, now what I do is every 6 months I decide to change something in the house to use. I think that's one of the most. Every day I would say, "Let's do this, let's do this." She's like, "Listen, you've got only that much balls and those many things in your house. Why are you constantly trying to change your mind?" So for me, pinpointing to things that, okay, I like this, was very, very difficult. I was very sure about the spatial planning, that I wanted this particular thing. I didn't want too much furniture. I've got small kids, so my the kids' bedroom doesn't have a bed. It has a Murphy bed. So those kind of things I was very sure of. But because I'm exposed to so many materials and so many beautiful things, so eventually, now what I do is every 6 months I decide to change something in the house to use. So I think that's one of the most challenging projects which has been there. Otherwise, my clients, really, touch wood, I've had uh, I have a dream run, I would say. Most of them have been very, very kind. They've been very, very sweet overall. They listen to me. I think so. No challenges as such, really.
People want to see more pictures of your house,
Yes, yes,
especially the
soon,
blue bar.
soon, soon,
Right. So how
soon.
long did it take you to design the whole space for your own house?
I shouldn't put it out on the social media, because I may have certain clients who are listening to this. But it really took us, I think, 3 months to finish the whole house, from start to finish. We were on the job constantly.
Mm.
We really had a very short term where we decided to move out of the house, and we wanted to get back in as soon as possible. Also because I was pregnant at that time, and I was due, and every time I would go on site, I was telling my contractors, "Listen, मेरा delivery हो जाएगा इधर, तुम लोग please काम जल्दी करो." So I think my team really helped me in doing uh, the house
Yeah.
very, very quickly. Yes, there were things that we finished later, but that was mostly accessorizing. But the civil work, the shell of the flat, so it's enough to move in, was done in 3 months.
Yeah, 3 months is a really short time to
Yeah,
finish the.
it is. It
That's
is.
that's
That's why I
really
said
short.
I don't want to tell this
Congratulations.
to any of my clients. But what helps is that we were the decision makers. We knew what materials we wanted. You know,
Right, right.
we were very sure of what we wanted to do with the house. So when you're with a client, there is a lot of discussion, there are budget issues, there are things that they're not convinced about, then you want to negotiate, so that the time goes in all those things. Even if you
Right.
decide early on what exactly that you want to do with the house, which we do most of the time, we do design it on paper and we show the 3D renderings before we go ahead. But it's really difficult because, you know, they want to negotiate, and they're in their full rights to do it. So I think the time goes there. So for me, it was on the head, okay, I want this material and I want it from this particular vendor, so it was easy that way.
Right,
Yeah, and I
right,
didn't
right, right.
I didn't listen a lot to my husband. That also kind of helped.
Wow.
So,
Uh,
so there has been.
what is?
So we I'm sorry.
No, no, no. You were saying.
So one day some wallpaper guy comes and installs this crazy wallpaper in the foyer, and it's wrapped, and he comes in and ye kya ho gaya? I said, I showed it to you. He's like, you never showed this to me. What is this? I'd have never seen this. So I'm like, okay, fine. Now
Right.
it's there. Now it's already installed. So it's okay. Live with it.
You can't do anything about it.
You can't do anything about it. So.
Right, right, absolutely. So, what do you think when is the right time for a young architect or designer to start their own practice?
There is really no right time, and we were on a discussion about this yesterday, and we with a couple of my contemporaries, and we all
On the
discussed this.
webinar, yeah.
Yes, yes, and we all discussed this. I think you have to go by your gut feeling. What we definitely suggest, and I also believe in it, that you must work with somebody for a couple of years to really get a hang of what you want to do. Like, even after working
Right,
for 5 years with a firm as big as Hafiz Contractor, I made so many mistakes, and eventually you are the one who's going to pay for it. So not something that, again, I should admit on social media, but early on when I started, I think within 1 year I got a really big project which I feel was way out of my league at that time, and I did a blunder in it, and I had to pay for it. And you know, it was difficult at that time because you're still struggling, and then the client is asking you to pay for something. I mean, pay for something as in, he said, okay, I'm not going to pay your fees, I'm going to cut that much. So so it's much better that if you work with a firm, it could be a big firm, it could be a smaller firm, you have to decide. I don't think uh, there is any concrete conclusion to whether you should work with a bigger firm or a smaller firm. You could get the opportunities in any space that you are working with, but it is important that you have that experience before you really go out and start there.
right, right, right. All right, we had a very interesting conversation today. I think we digged into a lot of insights. Please share recipe of wallpaper. Piyush is saying he stitched the wallpaper just behind you that time.
I'm sorry.
Uh, People are asking the recipe of the wallpaper.
So Piyush has been on a he's become a chef now. He's a stay-at-home lame chef who decides to make some recipes, and which is why he's asking the recipe of this wallpaper. So I think it's just wall and paper, Piyush. That's what the recipe is going to be for you.
Right, right, right. Okay, we had a very interesting conversation. I think we've answered a lot of questions as well. Thank you so much for joining us in this live session, and it was very exciting. I think the negative side of starting up and all those mistakes that we make, that is the kind of inspiration that all of us need. That when I made a mistake and I hear it from an expert that they've made such mistakes, it kind of gives us that, okay, fine, I haven't
Yeah,
done
no, we
anything
all
wrong.
are humans eventually, and we all are going to make some mistakes. So it's very important that be ready for it, because
Right,
no matter how experienced you are, you will. And we are all learning. I'm still a student after 16
absolutely.
years. You know, I'm still learning so
Right,
many
right.
things. And with
Hmm.
every new project, you do learn certain things. So, and with the advent of technology and the new materials coming in, how do you use a new material? You have to learn about it, right? So
Right.
we are all in the learning process. Don't be afraid. I think it's important to be out there. Just be confident in what you are, what you believe in, and I think
Right.
it'll be, yeah. And I think you have to be passionate about what you're doing. That is what is important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
then
Absolutely.
it'll be
All
easier,
right.
right? Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us here in this live session. It was a great time, and thank you everybody for joining us in this
Thanks,
session and
Utsav.
all your
Thanks a
great
lot.
questions. Yeah. All
Okay,
right. Bye
thank
bye.
you.
Take care.
Bye. You too. Bye.
Bye. Bye bye.